I'm often surrounded by.
The entire system is surrounded by
Test.
1, 2, yep.
Yes, sir. All right, cool.
You got the professional quick.
You know, I'm trying. How you feeling, bro?
Man, I'm blessed. I'm happy. You know, just did Thanksgiving with the wife and kids, so that's always a good mood to be in.
Man, well, I was really excited to have you on the podcast. Like, even once we started talking on Instagram, just because coming from Chicago, you know, being born and raised here, and then you know the connotation we get as young black men in Chicago, or just how we're viewed in this city. But to have somebody like you who's doing the things you're doing unapologetically yourself, but also so versatile, you know, it's a Chicago historian that looks like me and can relate to me.
Word.
So that was like off rip. I was like, I got to interview this guy. I got to know some more fun facts. I got to know it all. Like, you came in the building off camera, just so people know. You came in and you instantly was like, I got to figure out everything about this building. Like, you care to know, you know, and
absolutely.
it's not just it's not a social media facade. It's not this really who you are.
Nah, it's to my family chagrin. If we walk past a building, got a sign on it, they know just to stop and let me read the sign. They know, like, I get this look in my face. They're like, yeah, he getting ready to start researching this right now. Y'all pull out y'all phones. Like, I really care about the history of this space. I'm always interested in what was there before, and that kind of helps guide what should be there. Right.
Okay. So where did your love? Did your love for history really just start with the city, or is it across the board? Are you just a history fanatic in general, and then home was what?
Yeah. I've always been in any kind of history, right? Okay. I'm always into the story behind the thing, but particularly Chicago history. And I would credit it all to my old man. Okay. My old man was a cop here for 32 years. Word. And he was Harold Washington's bodyguard, Eugene Sawyer, Carol Mosley Braun, Bobby Rush. And so he ain't here no more to back me up, but I'm sure I was his favorite. And so he took me everywhere, man. And I would be with these historical luminaries, and all they talked about was history. Right. You know, so that bug got picked up, you know, real early with them.
That's fire. Okay, so what school did you go to? What part of the city you grew up in?
I'm from the South Side, Auburn Gresham neighborhood. Went to Calumet High School. It's closed now. Okay. Also went to John W. Cook Elementary. Went to alternative high school for a little while, too, and then ended up going to Eastern Illinois University.
Okay. That's dope. Yeah. That's dope. Man, so what was your... Before you even got into the space, what were you doing?
Still work for ComEd, the light company here in Chicago. High voltage electrician, working right down here as an area operator.
My dad's an electrician, plumber, all the above. So I feel he always working with ComEd doing something.
Oh yeah, word.
That's fire. Yeah. So and then what made you start posting and sharing all of it?
Well, so my wife is a runner, like she jogs and all that other kind of stuff. And we would go jogging. And, you know, in Chicago, we got brown signs that are honorary street signs that honor people. And so we would run past a lot of them. And like, Jay-Z's my favorite human being on earth. And he always talks about like a mental exercise or something. Like when he sees something, he keeps saying it to himself over and over. So when he get home, he can then write his rap or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
And so I would see these signs and I would keep saying the name over and over until we got back home. Then I would research them. And then I would like type out long form Facebook posts about it. About, you know, hey, you live by Mother Meacham, or, you know, this is why 71st is Emmett Till, or this, that, and the third. And those would be the posts that got the most likes on my Facebook. And then when the pandemic happened and TikTok happened, I started a TikTok channel to bond with my kids.
Right.
And my wife was like, you should put some of that stuff you was doing on Facebook on your TikTok. Right. And it just took off, man. Like there was no preparation. I don't still today don't know like why I'm here and how did that happen.
Man, because it's needed. Like I have in like past episodes, bro. I've said and talked about where I'm just like, man, like the content that, especially we ingest on a day-to-day basis, you know, it has a large effect on your mental. Yeah. But also it's the same as like, you know, I could sit at home and just watch Netflix and just watch something, or I could also watch something that's like a documentary or, you know, or something where I'm going to learn, you know, and I just feel like what you're doing is in that space, there's...
My brother's favorite quote is, what entertains you trains you. And man.
Yeah.
A lot of that, I feel that so much, particularly as I get older. You know, I'm a big hip hop fan, but I'm just, sometimes I'm getting to the point where like I can't even really enjoy it,
right?
Because I know what it's doing to the generation behind me, and
right.
You know, if they don't have a father, somebody that can like break down the entertainment value versus the good stuff you can take from it, they take it all at face value. But the other part, like before we got on, is what you were saying. As soon as you say Chicago, right? We went to Amsterdam. I was honored to be invited out there to tell some Chicago stories.
Right.
And everywhere we walked around, it was like, you're not from 63rd or gang, or this, that, and the third. And it's
Maps has O Block. It says O Block on Maps.
See what I'm saying?
It's like, word?
And what got me started is like the time zones, right? The 4 time zones in this country, it was laid out here in Chicago.
Right.
We don't talk about that, right? We across the street literally from the place that invented the chocolate brownie. The Palmer House Hilton in 1893. It got invented in that building directly across the street. And we don't talk about that. And when we talk about Chicago or you know, just the Ferris wheel coming from Chicago or the zipper. The Ferris wheel. His name is Mr. Ferris. That's why I got that name. And he created a ride for the Columbia World Exposition of 1893 and came out with the Ferris wheel. And so it's like, the fact that we don't tell these things in school, you know, that was like the driving point. And I didn't think it'd be, you know, 100,000 followers on TikTok later kind of thing. But like you said, these stories are important. They should be told.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't also Walgreens and the milkshake first came out of Walgreens in Chicago, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So many things, man. We've pioneered pretty much everything that you know. My quote, right? Everything dope about America comes from Chicago, and it's true. Like the first American car race happened in Chicago, Thanksgiving Day, 1895.
What did you tell me in there? And I was like, oh no, this. Oh right, we were talking about high schools, and I told you I went to Morgan Park Academy, and you were like, oh yeah, that's a military school, and that used to be a military school, and I was like, oh word, and then you said they had the first
ever basketball game, high school basketball game in Illinois happened at the high school you went to. You know,
crazy.
Very, very early, 1911, 1912.
I played basketball there. Never knew that. We're not very good. But private school, not very good. Right. But that's wild.
First ever.
And it's even one of those things I started realizing, because I started getting into, as I'm getting older, I started just getting into history, just like naturally. Because same idea, I feel like if you can't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. And a lot of things be the same shit happening over and over again because people don't care to look back. Yeah. You know, but what was I saying? Oh, yeah. I started realizing even in like Cicero and like a lot of the names that we would have came from like Roman emperors or like, you know, or like, and I didn't know these things, you know, and not only here, even in Los Angeles. And it's like, why is it Mulholland Drive? Yeah. Why? Oh, this guy did something. This is why. So it's amazing how easily like things are named and we just float by them. Like people don't care to know.
Don't give it any thought. One of the video series I was doing on my Instagram is telling people who their high school is named for, right? Like who you, especially here in Chicago, where you went to high school is like this badge of pride and honor, and that's how you're recognized. And you know, you'll lead with that before your family's last name kind of thing.
I went to HF. I went to Curie. All
this stuff, right? Madame Curie, she won the Pulitzer Prize. She actually won the Nobel Prize, right? I believe she's the first woman, Marie Curie, first woman to win the Nobel Prize, right? You ask a person that graduated from Curie, though, they wouldn't know that. And so it's
wild.
It blows me, man. It really does. And so I decided to just dedicate myself to it. And it's crazy, the things that, you know, I just won a regional Emmy.
That's lit, bro. And even how you've been able to connect with all the different organizations in Chicago as well, like from the White Sox to the Bulls to the but once again, I think it's a testament to you and you're filling a void, man. Like people, it's the same thing we were saying about when we were talking about hip hop. Right? And it's the same thing where you're like, man, certain things I can't, I like to separate rap and hip hop. Rap. And a lot of rap, especially that comes out of here. Yeah. It frustrates me because it's like, I want to champion and be a huge fan of Chicago artists. But like you said, it's a lot of them are coming up looking at XYZ, taking it at face value,
Yeah.
and then it's all one thing. You know what I mean?
Even that, man. I take a lot of these high school kids on tours, and I take them by Old Block, Parkway Gardens, and I tell them that it used to be like this white-only amusement park that didn't let black people go there until 1943. And instead of integrating, they knocked it down. And then Parkway Gardens became the second largest black-owned co-op in the country. And when it fell on hard times, that's when the city turned it into housing projects. And then that's when it turned into this thing. Wow. And it's credited with like partially inventing this thing we call drill music. And I tell them, like, if you're the best drill rapper in Chicago, bar none, you still got to leave Chicago to get on because of everything else that comes with it. Right, record labels don't come here and establish themselves, but every other place where a genre invented itself, record labels planted themselves there. Right, you can go to Atlanta when it was lean with it, rock with it.
Go to New York when it was all
You know what I mean? But there is no way, because of how the music is presented and what's presented in the music, right? And it's a detriment to y'all. Like if y'all just took if you was just used the fake names, right? Don't say people real names, it would probably change so much about your ability to get out of these spaces, man. And then what's so sad is so O Block is on King Drive on 64th. On 64th in St. Lawrence is Emmett Till's childhood home. And they don't know that.
Wow.
You know, the man that started the modern civil rights era for us, for this country. His pictures of his funeral is the reason why Rosa Parks didn't get up.
On the cover was the cover of Jet magazine.
Yeah. And they 4 blocks away and don't know that that's the last set of steps Emmett Till walked down alive in the city of Chicago. So I take them back there and I make sure that they know that kind of stuff. And it's crazy.
That's wild. And it's great you're doing this too, because it's, as you say all of these things, you also, it's like I recently, about a year ago, but found out about all those black towns and cities that they just built lakes over, or who are, or like Central Park was a whole black, a whole black community, and you start to see these things, and then you go, man, damn, if we don't, they not gonna tell us
at all. Will wipe us clean off the face of it, right? And, we like the Dan Ryan Expressway, right? They knocked down a lot of black houses to build that. They knocked down a lot of black neighborhoods to extend 290. And there are no signs that tell you that. And the generation that was around that did get displaced, they gone. You know what I'm saying?
So they can't tell.
So they can't tell. And then in 50 years, it'll be like, oh, this was always there, and we didn't displace anybody, and
Listen,
and that's crazy.
My dad used to always, there was a building he used to always work at, AT&T building on 22nd Street. And I remember we used to go over there. He'd be like, hey, I could work. We get on the bus, we go do whatever we had to do. But he was like the hood. Shit was tough.
Yeah.
Tough. And you see what that's like. They redid the whole White Castle.
I know exactly what AT&T building you're talking about. 22nd and Wabash.
Insane. Like he would be like, "Hey, if we over here, just keep your head on a swivel because this shit was serious." Yeah. And then all of a sudden, 10 years went by. All of a sudden, you saw like the 1 or 2 white guys riding their bikes around. It's kind of like, huh. And then them projects got redone, and now they're like a senior living or whatever. It's just like, wow, they built that beautiful school right there. Huh.
Yeah, move you right on out, and you get no benefit from it, nothing, no memory of who was there before, and no help for the people that they moved out of there. Like they in Iowa now or something like that. A lot of those families, it's crazy.
Damn, man. Yeah. So what are the things about this city though that you love them, or just the things that you grew up with that you love the most?
Not to be kissing up to the host, man, but I remember like the dollar days and stuff like that at Taurus Flavors.
Yeah,
I grew up on 81st and Troop, so the original one was on Morgan, or right about Morgan, right on 79th. So, that was a big part of my upbringing. So just, the smell and taste of mild sauce on something, right? Makes me think a lot about Chicago. And of course, the Bud Billiken Parade. Man. That was a big part of our childhood.
I did that every year.
Yeah, I just got to be my first time ever, honorary Grand Marshal, man. I was like fighting back tears. I couldn't believe it, right? It's such a big part of Chicago. But, I got to, in those days, particularly Chicago Stadium days, if you're father was a cop or something, he could just show a badge and we could get in and watch the games. So he used to take us to the games, and we check out Jordan. I'm so fortunate, right? Because I've seen baseball at Old Comiskey and New Comiskey. I've seen basketball at the old stadium and the United Center, right? And so just those stories, playing Pee Wee baseball and all that stuff in the park. But I was just talking to somebody else, like it was like this. It went from this idyllic childhood, and then I turned like 12 or 13, and I got tall and got a baby mustache, and now I look like, the folks of the Moles, and then it just changed for me, man.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because this is literally, me and my friend you mentioned, Bart, we talk about this all the time, and it's so weird, because he lived in L.A. Like for a solid 12 years as well, and we go out here, and we just like, damn, it's just so crazy. You can feel how different it feels. Like, people are looking at you so differently. If you go to in LA, okay, you're in a nice restaurant, so what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But out here, it's always like,
1,000%.
You know what I mean? And it's even when I was younger, I would feel it. It's just like, going to water tower. Like, why am I getting pressed so hard? But at the same time, I get it. I get what you're seeing or what you're thinking. But that's the one thing about this city that has always, why I haven't been like, I'm moving back. And it's only because it's the segregation that is created. Even from the north side, south side. Like, it's, you can call it what you want, but it's really a segregation.
Not just that, our city's fabric is etched in segregation, right? So we famously are a city of 77 neighborhoods. And so the boundaries of those neighborhoods was created by the University of Chicago sociology department. And they were using the restrictive racial covenant boundary. So racial covenants, let's take Woodlawn, right? Okay. 61st on the north, 67th on the south, King and Cottage. If 90% of the property owners there signed on to an agreement saying that we only will lease or sell to people of European descent, that was the law of the land.
Yeah, I remember.
So, much of the neighborhoods in Chicago had those restrictive covenants, and then that's what becomes the border of Wicker Park. That's what becomes the border of Humboldt Park. That's what becomes the border of Bridgeport, right? It's the dividing line of the races. So that's literally etched into the Chicago fabric, right? We're a city that's etched into the segregation of the past, and a lot of those ethnic enclaves just remain later, right? So the only place that they would lease places to Asian Americans was Cermak to 26th Street, Wentworth to right, Ashland, so that becomes Chinatown, and that was so it's literally etched in our fabric.
Right. Okay. So this is what's amazing too is when you hear things like that and you know that, and then you go, and we have no intention on changing.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. It's like sincerely nuts. On the one hand, I don't dig segregation. Yeah. But on the other hand, it creates like these ethnic pockets. Right. Like, so if you go to Humboldt Park, you might as well be in Puerto Rico.
I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? If you
which is cool culturally, for sure.
Cool culturally.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
You go to a little village, you think you in Mexico, right? Or Pilsen. Well, Pilsen's getting gentrified. They're getting priced out of there now. Really? Yeah. Yeah. You see white ladies and puppies in Starbucks cups in Pilsen. That was never like that.
It was the Whole Foods pop up. Oh man, let's not talk about where Cabrini Green used to be. What? Yeah. Like what?
Took that whole thing from them, man.
That whole hardball thing, that no longer, like, what?
People would come to Chicago to like want to see where hardball was filmed. They'd be like, we can't find it. I'm like, no, you're there.
You're right there.
It's all just
it's
gone.
It's right next to the Whole
Target.
Foods.
It's a Target where Cabrini Green was, and it's insane.
It's insane. Man. That's just it's wild when you just see how, especially when you leave and you come back for a minute, you be like, damn. Like, none of this. He went and showed me Fulton Market the other day.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, this is, shit. Like, I didn't have this stuff when I was down there. Like,
not at all. And it was crazy for me. Like, I started at ComEd as a meter reader. Okay. And so that was like one of my favorite places to go, because that's what we used to be like the meat packing district. If somebody was going to throw a barbecue, you drive down to Fulton and you get to buy it directly from the people butchering the chickens and be so much cheaper. Kind of like Moo and Oink, you know what I mean? But just way bigger scale.
Illinois.
Yes, sir.
R.I.P.
And they just started building by building, buying it from the people. And within 10 years, it's like this whole new swanky thing. Before it used to be called Haymarket Square, and now Fulton Market is the new name for it. It was Haymarket Square was what it was back in the day.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn, that's crazy. What neighborhood do you think in the city you've seen change the most?
I would say Pilsen for sure. That's what's really, really strong Mexican American neighborhood. It's kind of not so much that anymore. And what's really changing a lot nowadays is Bronzeville. We used to call it like the low end. Yeah. But it's changing, and I don't want to say for the better or for the worse, but it's certainly changing. Once they announced that the Obama Presidential Library was going to be in Jackson Park, that university started buying up so much of that property, and it's certainly changed. Right where the projects used to be, that area is changing really, really rapidly.
You just got to pay attention right before. You just got to know what's happening. Mm-hmm. If you know what's happening, you know what about it.
And know the history of those spaces too. Right. I got 7 kids. Right? I got teenage sons, so I understand one, their safety, but I also understand that if all of us sell grandmama house, you're gonna come back and it's gonna be nothing, and they're gonna recognize it. And and then a lot of times, right, unless you fortunate or you got this amazing career in any particular field, but sometimes when you move away from a place, it's like, this ain't working for me. But then you done sold granny crib, you ain't got nowhere to come back to.
Exactly.
And now you stuck in the middle between a rock and a hard place. So
and you lose a lot once again too. It's like you're losing. This is how, like you said, this is how these neighborhoods change. Yeah. It's opposed to. I've been thinking about this, even when you brought up how close Emmett Till's home is to a place like O Block.
Right.
It's funny that we don't get this information, because also when you know information like that, you have a slightly different for your neighborhood.
Bro.
You know what I mean? You have a different respect for, because that's one thing. If nothing else, we got respect for the things we have respect for.
Yes, sir.
And that's facts, more so than a lot of other people.
I wanted to record it. I think I am next time it happens. But the Pilgrim Baptist is on, that is Indiana, 31st in Indiana. Okay. And it's the place where Thomas Dorsey and Mahalia Jackson kind of got together to create gospel music, right? So Chicago invented that genre of music. And so I'll have these high schoolers on the bus, and they ain't paying me no attention. They got their earbuds on or whatever. And those who I can't reach, I'm trying. But then when we pull up to Pilgrim, I get to telling them the story of gospel music. And what happened was Thomas Dorsey, he played with Ma Rainey. He was a blues man and all that. He wasn't thinking about the Lord in his music. Right. They used to call him Georgia Tom, and he was the most ratchet dude of the 19 teens, right? And then he married this lady, and she died in childbirth. And then the doctor was like, man, you had a long night, go home. So he go home, and when he come back, his son had died in the night. And so with his heart kicked out his chest, he wrote this poem. And then fast forward, Mahalia Jackson moves to Chicago. She's 17. She's singing hymnals because there's no such thing as gospel music. But then she comes across that poem at his house. And she's like, sit down and play something for me. So he plays this slow jazz riff. And then she turns the poem into the song. And you know that song because you sung it a bunch of times. It's called Precious Lord.
Oh, right? Yeah.
And that moment in time invented gospel music. And when I tell that story to them kids, they immediately want to know, what they going to do at the church and why it ain't fixed. They're so invested right at that very moment, man. You see it change right across their face. And, that happens when I take them by, because that's where Bessie Coleman's funeral was. Okay. I take them to this place, Wabash YMCA, where Black History Month started, And,
wait, what?
Yeah, Black History Month come from Chicago, bro.
Wait, how? Please explain.
Carter G. Woodson was a graduate student at the University of Chicago. Okay. He couldn't stay on the dorms because he was black. So he's staying at the Black Wabash YMCA. And he started the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History. And they came up with Negro Achievement Week because it was 50 years since the end of the Civil War. And so to celebrate that, they wanted to acknowledge all the accomplishments blacks had did. Black History Month started off as a week. And they got organized in that building. So same thing, man. Like, I tell them that, and they like, why? First, they want to know why they didn't know that. Right. And then they want to know who's taking care of this space. And, you know, the more I tell these stories, like, people have been telling me, like, yeah, man, we saw some kids picking up trash outside of this, you know, like, because now they're aware, right? Because
if you're aware of that, you're like, no, like, some dope shit happened here. This is important. Like, but you know it. Like, even as you're sitting here educating me, it's like, no, this is very important stuff. And in any of their neighborhoods, they let you know, and that would rise property value up.
Yep.
But it's just like, no, it's...
Yeah, because it's our history.
Because it's our history.
And I appreciate your compliment, because at some point we got to tell our own stories. And, you know, I'm so thankful that, because I went to, my wife had a great job at ComEd, man. Right. It's a union job. Yeah. And, I'm there part-time now, but I had to go in there and be like, hey, you know, this nice salary that you're used to, and, you know, the bills are paid. I think I'm going to quit so that I can do a tour company and tell Chicago stories online. And, you know, she was like, okay. Right. And it's been working out for us, but what I'm super proud of is, like, you know, the Illinois Office of Tourism said that our tours has brought like $500,000 of tour revenue to these black spaces. That's amazing. I don't do downtown tours. I just do the South and West Side.
And that's great.
You know, and, you know, when you come on my tour, and it's probably like 65% white folks on the tour. But then that makes them aware that this place is important. And then, you know, maybe next time a kid from that place is in their office for a job interview, it's like, oh, you from this important place versus you from this place that's known for gangbanging and that kind of stuff, right? But then not just that, they be hitting me up later like, hey, what was that restaurant that you drove by that you said got the best this or that?
Right.
Or, you know, when I do the Inglewood tours, I'll hit up small business owners in Inglewood, and I'll say, hey, man, I'm finna bring 35 people by there to buy something. Mop the floors for me, brother. You know what I'm saying?
Right, get it right.
Don't have me walk in there looking, you got crazy, and it smell like the Loud Pack. Like, light the incense. we on our way, man. But it's been making a difference, so we're very proud of that.
That's what we need, man. We need brothers doing stuff like that. Because it's just... when you put people on game, it elevates their game. Look, my dad would always say this. He says, you know, he's like, back in the day when you had black-only neighborhoods, one guy, because these were the only places you could live, one guy was a doctor. Mm-hmm. One other person might have, you know, not had a job. One dude may be trapping. But at the end of the day, because all these different people live around each other, they kind of hold each other accountable to stuff. Okay, so the doctor got nice stuff. Okay, I'm going to make sure my lawn cut too.
Yep.
You know, and it's like once you lose that, because once again, it's like, well, the doctor's not going to live over here. He's going to move. Mm-hmm. So now you're only getting one type of person who doesn't have anybody to follow, who's trying to.
Man, that's so important. You know, another example that drives it home is like Granny's white couch with the plastic on it. You know, you just know that that's a room you can't play in, and that's something that you shouldn't mess with. And no one ever tells you the story. But like, one day ask your aunt, like, why we can't go in there? And I promise you, the story is always the same. It was that she couldn't buy furniture at the reputable stores, so she had to make 72 payments of $9.99 a month for this couch. Right. And by the time she had it paid off, she was so proud, and this place now becomes like this place of reverence in the Granny house. Y'all can play everywhere else, but Granny's front room, because what she had to go through for them couches. And if people knew what we had to go through to even be homeowners on the South Side, if people knew what we had to go through to even get these union jobs or to be recognized as full participants in the city of Chicago, you know, I think that they move a little bit different. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And then, you know, it don't got to be stiff, man. People, I do own one of those coats with the tweed elbows, but you know, that's mostly how you think of a historian, right? Guy at the front room, with the front of the room with the glasses on, the tweed jacket, and he's not, you know, speaking in our vernacular, or he's not using slang, man. And I do research just like they do. I acquire like a skill at it. You know what I mean? I know where to go and what to look for, and it's nuts, man. I'm doing guest lectures at Northwestern. I don't think I've ever been anywhere without a pair of Jordans.
That's amazing, bro.
Yeah,
I went to what was it, a math program when I was younger. I think it was called like Math on Ice or something, but it was at Northwestern. Up on I forgot my dad would drive me there, but I was super young. I was like 5, 6 years old. But yeah, it's crazy the different spaces that this can take you.
Yeah.
And like I said, people want it. Like people want to hear this stuff because I'm completely blown away by like what you're doing. And I imagine if there was someone like you in every state.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Like
yeah.
that look like us doing what?
Yeah.
Just think how many people that's just would.
That's a thought that I'm having. Like, how can I find a me in New Orleans that knows the Black history,
right.
and how can I use the platform that I've gained to kind of help them build their platform?
Right.
Because the other part of it is that there's, we're not rich. Please don't run up on me and try to poke me. I don't have any money, but
me neither.
Right.
it ain't what you think it
right,
is, brother.
Man, bro, don't God it ain't. But I'm thankful to Christmas. Everybody can get a gift, that kind of thing.
Right.
But there are grant opportunities, right? We was because we were storytellers and there's an educational piece to it. I was able to apply for grants to get the bus that I use to do the tours, right? We were able to. The city wants small Black-owned businesses to reopen all those storefronts that are closing, and so we got a storefront in my neighborhood where you can come by and book the tours. We're getting ready to create a space like this, right? Everybody want to do podcasts or a rap studio, right? Your grades, we always the good kids don't get enough attention. We're always going for the super on the edges, on the margins, right? You either got to be like a principal scholar or you're a kid that we're trying to keep out of jail.
At risk, yeah.
Yeah, right. At risk was what I'm looking for. And the kids just do what they're supposed to do and move on. They don't seem to get the help to. So we want to help those kids, right? Because those are the ones who come back and buy a house and keep their lawn cut.
Right.
Those are the ones to be great to have a lawyer in your neighborhood, right? You ain't got to be no big shot corporate lawyer.
Just a lawyer.
Just a lawyer, man.
That's what I'm saying. 'Cause I've seen it. I look at other people, other races of people, they go in their neighborhood. Oh, they got a doctor in the neighborhood. They got a blah, blah, blah. And when you need information, you don't have to reach too far.
Yeah.
Your network is just, And if everybody, and if all of us doing the same thing where I'm coming from, then we can't put each other up on anything, you know?
So we try to be that, try to be available to my community. I do a lot of, the Bulls, thankfully, the Bulls and the Blackhawks, they give me about 40 tickets a season.
Okay.
And so anytime a teacher's like, yo, this kid been really trying and he stay out of trouble, I just throw them 2 tickets. I take your mom to the Bulls game, take your mom to the Blackhawks game, right? Take your mom to the Sox game. And I tell these stories when I'm talking to these kids too, like, negative. The example I give all the time is if you driving down the street and you see a fight, a really good, just knock down, drag out ball, and you pull out your phone and you record the fight, you're probably gonna get 1 million views. You're gonna be on World Star. And everybody gonna be focused on that fight, but there will be no follow up for you. No one's gonna send you a message, say, hey, you want this brand deal? No one's gonna say, hey, come do this, right? I've never one singular video gotten 1 million views. I've gotten close. But when I post positive stuff, it's something that comes behind it. I post a positive video about the neighborhood of Wrigley, and the Cubs say, hey, we want you to take our players on a neighborhood tour. And now then one of the players on the bus will be like, I love what you're doing. Here's my number. And like now, next time I come across a shorty that want to play baseball, I can connect him to, Curtis Granderson or whoever, right? Same to me and Zuma and Spice Adams and a bunch of players from the Bears before Tim Anderson was gone. He's like, I don't know these dudes, I don't play sports, but they seen something positive that I was doing and they got behind it, right? And that's just been happening nonstop for us, man, since we started this.
Listen, everything you're saying, that's even why I started doing this. And this is why I interview the types of people I interview. And this is because I've seen that. I've seen, things do well that don't really mean much.
Yeah.
And, but whenever you're doing something and there is a positive connotation to it, it bleeds through more. Now, the algorithm doesn't love it as much as some. No chance. No, I know you know. No chance. But you get more actual engagement.
Yeah.
Whether that's people, like you said, DMing you for X, Y, and Z, or whether that's just people viewing even your channel in a different way.
Yeah.
Because I even know, once I started doing this podcast, it was oh, you get to actually hear me talk. Yeah. You get to hear how I really think. Now, you and I might have just, if you met me, you know what it is. But if you don't meet me, the closest thing you're ever going to have is what? My Instagram clips. So until then, what's a way that you can connect? And positive conversation connects with the people it's supposed to. Yeah. That's what it is. It might not connect with everybody because they might ignore it. Yeah. But the people it's supposed to connect with, it does. And usually that has a better follow-up.
The true engagement is the thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like I said, you can have 1 million followers on Instagram, the world's, I don't want to use nobody's names, but all the pages that put negativity out there, right? Right. But it still don't be true engagement. It don't be effective and impactful engagement, right? Mm-hmm. I love the fact that people, I tell my kids all the time, just being selfless, just telling my willingness to tell others stories. It's not only changing my lives, it's changing y'all's, right? So it's teaching them not to be selfish, you know? And same thing with you, right? The fact that you come from a family of hard workers here in Chicago, a lot of people don't often see the back end of that. They don't see how the next generation is watching, and then that makes you, want to live up to your family name, and it makes you want to push further. But then the network that they create provides opportunity. So maybe Brother Perkins didn't get to, CLA and be in all these rooms, but the fact that he was just a hard worker, and came on down.
Shout out to Mr. Perkins, Edward Perkins, man. He was, every time I had a show in LA, or I had to get to the airport, every time he drove me. Because basically, so shout out to Edward Perkins. My father, when he moved from Chester, Pennsylvania to Chicago, lived in his den.
See?
And he used to make a joke. He said, my dad showed up. He had 2 bags with him, and one had a hole in it, full of clothes. That's what he had. But then, and he helped my dad had a store. I don't know where it was at, what street, but he had a store called Floyd's Finest Flavors, and it was a hoagie shop. But Perk, help put him in business and do. But it's just that lineage of, and how he helped my father, Mr. Perkins. My dad's dad and him used to box together in the military.
See,
and so he saw 3 generations of insane, and was, as you know, when you would go into the shops, one of the most supportive. And same thing that, like you were saying, I'm trying to find a way to keep that legacy going because
you're doing it. You did this.
You're doing really. Man, really one of the most selfless people, man, and knew how to run a damn business. Mm-hmm. Because he even there was a Taurus in LA at one point, but he would set so many people up. Apparently, hearing later, one of his biggest faults was he always wanted to help people. It was one of those things, he'd be setting people up with shops, trying to help them get blah blah. Niggas don't want that whole thing.
Everybody wanted it easy. Don't understand that back end work behind that.
Exactly.
But that's the Chicago story, bro. Right? John H. Johnson came to Chicago. He come from Arkansas, and they didn't let blacks in Arkansas go to high school in his little town. So his mother made him go to 8th grade and 3 times.
And Mr. Perkins is from Arkansas.
Say word.
Crazy.
Say word, right?
Little Rock.
So John Johnson comes to Chicago, and he got these holes in his shoes, and so all of us got the orange can in our bathrooms right now. Murray's Wave Grease. That was Charles Murray. He was a barber here in Chicago. He's the inventor of Murray's Wave Grease. That waves come from Chicago too. I can do this all day, right? So. But he sees him, and John H. Johnson holds the door for him. And he's respectful. Mm-hmm. He's like, you know what? We can't have you like this here in Chicago. So he hook him up with some shoes and give him a suit. And then John H. Johnson then becomes the president of his graduating class. Just he's getting groomed by this guy. But then John Johnson puts people on behind him, right? He hires Massasoit to design the Ebony and Jet building, the only black design building downtown. And that's just the Chicago story of greatness, right? You look out for the person behind you. You know, we know Bessie Coleman's the first black person to get a pilot's license. The guy who started the Chicago Defender paid her way to Paris, paid her way through flight school.
What?
Yeah, Robert Abbott paid for all that, made sure that she got to Paris and she graduated flight school, and then make sure she got back and help her connect her so she can get piloting jobs. You know, it's just a story, right? You know, Oscar DePriest was a congressman who groomed Harold Washington. You know, like that's the Chicago that I want these young folks to know. Like,
and it shows you too, like you said, we already know it's in the fabric, so that's really the only way too.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's the only way we're gonna get there, because no one else is gonna look at. You know, the cavalry ain't coming to save black folks. No. We're gonna save ourselves and be. You know, I love that quote. They say that you're a great man if you plant a tree and you know you'll never see its shade. You know what I'm saying?
Real shit.
And that's what I'm trying to do.
Damn,
man.
that's real.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Because it's selfless.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's what I'm on. It's crazy, man. Like I said, I'll be pinching myself from walking out that door every day, and the opportunities that I get to tell our stories. Mm-hmm. My favorite part of it is what you said in the beginning. I get to be me. You know, I don't gotta try to speak their language. You know, I just have to be factual with the information. My wife knows when I go in my office and close that door, everybody gotta leave me alone. I'm doing some research. You know, I had 3-4 books open. She used to talk about me so bad, man. I've learned to stop wasting my time. But I'll be looking at something on social media, and somebody will say something unfactual, and I'll be know in my head what page the real information. So now I'm getting up to go get a book to cite. She's like, "You doing all that for some idiot behind his phone?" Like, don't waste your time.
You know what you do now? Now you could, what is it? You could quote, or you could put a video in the caption. Right. And that's what you do now. You be like, listen, man, in 1985.
Look, I'm telling you, man, because we repeat a lot of crazy stuff.
A lot of lies. Yeah. And then it also makes you wonder where a lot of the misinformation comes from.
Oh, man, it's planted, right? Because, you know, that's another, propaganda is real, man.
Big time.
You know, propaganda is a real thing.
I once again started getting into history, and I found out about Joseph Goebbels.
Yeah,
and it's just you start looking at oh, this shit's been a thing, and okay, this goes deep.
Very deep. The only Confederate monument in the North is at Oakwood Cemetery on 67th and Cottage Grove. It's literally the only Confederate monument, and propaganda got it there. You know, it's nuts, man.
And you know what's fucked up? I'm pretty sure that's where some of my people at.
Oh, Jack Johnson's there. Jesse Owens there.
Oh, he's there too?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
My dad's there.
Yeah, I think I want to say my mom's brothers and maybe a sister is there.
Yeah.
Damn. And only Confederate monument.
Yeah.
And who's it of?
So Chicago used to be a Confederate prisoner of war camp during the Civil War. Mm-hmm. And 10,000 of them died, so they got buried in a mass grave. But then that what do they call it? The lost cause that propaganda started to happen, and they got a congressional appropriation to reinter them at what we call Confederate Mound. They built this $5 million marble whatever. It's right in the middle of the cemetery. It's crazy. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But
also and this is a problem everywhere, but it's just funny when you look at things. You're like, so we got $5 million for this. Mm-hmm. We got $5 million for this.
Mm-hmm. They had it. It was $5 million in 1895. Ain't no telling what that's worth today, right? Right. So it's way more money. That's what they spent on it.
I could have taken care of a whole school system. I tell you that.
1,000%. 1,000%, man.
Shit. That's some serious inflation.
Yeah. Right,
boy. If you had $5 million in 1895, you were just stupid.
Yeah, man. That's hundreds of millions.
That's hundreds of millions. Yeah. So, what are I just want to know, what are your other how am I trying to word this? What are your hold on, wait, I just having a brain fart. What are the other things in history that you're adamant about? That's how I want it to work.
Besides just so one, obviously Black history,
right?
But then two, Chicago's place in history, right? Like first level for me, obviously I'm a Black guy. I'm going to preach to my people, but then above and beyond that, it's like the history of Chicago in its proper context, right? Like Northwestern is called Northwestern because that used to be the northwestern point of the United States. We didn't own any. We didn't do the Louisiana Purchase yet, so Chicago was the northwest frontier of America. So that's where Northwestern gets its name from. So just acknowledging that, like, there would be no Western expansion without Chicago, right? The first open heart surgery, Chicago. First organ transplant, Chicago. The first skyscraper, Chicago. Balloon frame architecture, Chicago, right? Just the things that we do. And, first bowling championship, Chicago, right? The roller derby invented in Chicago. Yeah, man, we cold. It's because you got to think, like, before there was an America, there was a New York. Before there was an America, there was a Los Angeles. Right. So we're like this thing that people got to try all their innovations on, and then when it worked, it got to spread out. And so just placing us where we belong. Fox Sports just did a thing like the most professional athletes ever.
I saw that.
Come from Chicago, right? But New York's the mecca of basketball. How, when the Harlem Globetrotters come from Chicago? How is that a thing? If the Harlem Globetrotters are recognized as the first Black world champion basketball team, and they were created in Chicago in 1927, how is Harlem the mecca of Black basketball? It can't be. Right?
It can't be, just factually.
I love Harlem. That's my joint. Like, I love Jay-Z, right? Yeah. But it just can't be, right? Fritz Pollard, the first Black quarterback, Chicago. Walt Disney, Chicago.
Wait,
right?
He played for first Black quarterback, but where did he play? He didn't play for the Bears, though,
Nah.
They ain't having that.
Nah.
They just got cool with that recently.
Yeah, they might have had two in their whole lifetime, maybe two.
I
can't think of nobody but Justin Fields right now off the top of my head.
Because I remember every year, we used to always, because, I'm from the era of Cade McNow.
Yeah.
And who was the other guy? Everyone bought his jersey.
We had Kyle Orton.
But further back.
Jim McMahon.
Not Jim McMahon, a little past, who was the guy? It was like, he didn't pan out. I think, was he number 8?
I think that's Kyle Orton. We got Trubisky. Yeah, I ain't me and the Bears quarterback lineage.
Look, I know there ain't a lot of brothers.
Man. But and then just history in general, right? I would say, like, I'm a proponent of even your family has a history. Right? Like, if you're not going to care about Chicago history or American history or any of that stuff, care about your family history, right? What did your great-grandfather do? What was your great-great-grandfather's name? And if you don't know it, how can you acquire that information? And then we live in the information age. Right. It's real easy to do, I think all Black folks should have an Ancestry.com account. Right. Even if you want to send your swab in, don't, whatever. I ain't, they already got our DNA. You got an iPhone.
That's what I'm saying. It's over anyway,
but if you're on that side of the conspiracy, you want to send your DNA in, fine, don't. But at least have the information so that you can type in your grandmother's name and she's going to appear on somebody's census. And then you're going to see her parents' name, and they're going to appear on somebody's census because maybe somebody stole some farmland from y'all, right? Maybe on that census it shows that your great-grandpa owned 100 acres of land. What happened to that 100 acres of land? Is there a bill of sale for those 100 acres of land, right? How old do people in your family typically live to be? Mm-hmm. All these things can be found by doing just research on your own family, right? And then you're going to come across somebody that did something dope, and that's going to inspire you. And then you're going to start telling that story, and that's going to inspire your kids. So just pushing history as a thing. Same way we push STEM,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's funny too, because just as you're saying that and you're thinking about it, it's like, think how, like, I'm fortunate, I'm blessed, I have fantastic parents, they've been in my life, whole life, but, like, even think of the kids who don't have that, but there's probably somebody in their past, great, whatever, who did something really fantastic or great or something that really made a mark on the world, but they don't know, but then that gives them this lack of confidence that they don't think they can. It's like, no, bro, your great grandfather was that nigga. Like he was that dude. Like in every circle, but you don't know.
You don't even man, whether your old man was in your life or not. If you got his name, then you can start to roll back the peel of onion, the layers of the onion back to discover who you are, where you come from, and
do you notice it's harder, obviously being black because of slavery and stuff?
1,000%,
yeah. So
1,000%.
How far can you usually go back before you got to really start trying to dig?
Yeah, so most folks can get to the late 1800s, which is a long time
ago.
That's
a pretty long time.
Yeah, right. Most folks can get to about the 1880 census before it starts to get a little funny for them.
Okay.
As long as you got your grandma name, you can get pretty far back. Okay. And sometimes you discover, like, grandma had to change her name because she was fleeing Mississippi because she did something down there. Right there are so many stories just about your own personal, and then write those names down and give them to your kids so that they can add to them. And so that when you no longer here, they can go back. Everybody else can do it.
That's what I was going to say. Exactly. Like as you're saying, I was like, damn, you know what? You're right, because if everybody else can do it for longer. Should start now before later. Because damn,
yeah. Because we all right. You're gonna look up. We're gonna all be old, man. You know what I'm saying? That time fly like that, man. But the history don't go away. You can put those names in newspaper articles. Man, the coolest thing ever. I love when somebody you respect, you get to make them cry. Because Jason Weaver is a guy that I've come to know and respect.
Yeah.
We've gotten close. And then he gave me his grandpa name. His grandpa was the guy that built this church on 70th and Wabash. And they had never seen a newspaper article about it and all of that. So, I was able to send him that. I do that a lot of times for people when they ask me.
You were saying, I remember you said that. That's what made me use the word selfless. You were like, sometimes I'll just see things on like a property, blah, blah, and I'll just write to people and I'll just
I'll be researching something else and I'll see an address on Loomis or Bush Bishop or, Dante, whatever street. And, it'd be right there, like who the architect was and who the person he was building that house for. And so I'll just print it and just drop it in those people's mailboxes so they'll know the origin story. Because the other thing I believe is that spaces have energy, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if greatness permeated that space, then greatness can permeate that space. Correct. Same way we're quick to recognize the dark energies or something. Like something's bad in that area, then it's always bad, right? And you'll recognize that. But what happens when it's good? What happens when there's been generations of teachers lived in that house or store owners, right? That means that you could be a part of that too. That energy's already there. You just got to tap into it, man.
Damn,
so
I never thought about that either.
Yeah, so I do that pretty often to people, man. I know I guess I got to start signing it or something to say no. Where it comes from. I don't know where it came from.
But man, it's beautiful what you're doing, bro. It's because it's just so eye opening. It's so eye opening, and it's something that it makes me want to get on the ball and figuring out like all my people and all my,
Yeah. Now, especially a family like yours, right? That's meant so much to the city. That's the other part of it too. I want to make sure that families like yours, family like Jason Weaver, family like the Johnson family, get their roses right, while they can smell them, while they can be acknowledged, right? Like there's all kind of plaques on the north side on all these buildings. We need to do the same. The block Bernie Mac grew up in should have a plaque in front of it that says Bernie Mac lived here, right?
Where was he?
71st, right near Wentworth-ish.
Okay.
Yeah. And then on 69th Street, too. His daughter's doing a real good job of preserving that legacy. She just started a podcast where she's telling Bernie Mac stories of growing up. He was driving a bread truck till he was like 32.
My mom told me she remember one time she went to Doc's. And he was working at the docks.
Say word.
She was like, he was, being loud, being funny, but taking orders, and that's what he was doing.
Yeah, man.
Just like, damn.
They say he was pissed off. He run runner-up for prom king at CVS. So he talked about the prom king for the rest of the night. Just kept gunning him.
That guy wish he didn't win. I know that guy wish he didn't win.
Man, bro.
Man, Bernie Mac gunning you, you're done. Oh, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Wood Harris.
Yes, sir.
Legend.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
Wood and his brothers is from here, man. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people don't know Greg and Brian Gumbel, right? They went to De La Salle.
Really?
Yeah. I got their yearbook pictures.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man. So many people. What's the lady's name that's married to George Lucas? I can't think of her name right now. I'm so mad. But she runs the Ariel Investment, which is the largest black-owned black investment company in this country. Wow. And she went to St. Ignatius, and she's from the south side of Chicago. That's why they was getting ready to put the Star Wars Museum here, but they didn't want to give them land in Millennium Park. But it's because of her. You know, she's married to George Lucas. Right. The people who wrote The Matrix are from Chicago.
Wow.
Yeah. Both the black ladies that played the Oracle, the new one and the old one, both from Chicago, right? Lieutenant Uhura, Nichelle Nichols, she from Chicago, you know. Damn. So that's the other part of it too. Like, we're so New Yorkers, right? They loud and proud, you know, and folks, you know, in LA are loud and proud, in Atlanta, but we matter too, man. So just digging that up and exposing it to the world, and then trying to remind those people who are from Chicago to come back, right? You know, gotten cool with Thomas Lennon, who wrote Reno 911, and Night Museum, Lieutenant Dangle, right?
Yeah.
New Boots Goofing. Me and my wife just went to dinner with them.
That's fine.
And me and him wrote this show, so we getting ready to, now that the writer's strike and all that stuff is over, we getting ready to repitch it.
Let's go.
And then me and Domate and Jason Weaver wrote this other show because all these, you know, Red Fox went to high school here in Chicago.
Really?
Yeah, bro.
Where he go?
He went to DuSable.
Damn.
Yeah, man. You know, just there's all these people that have these amazing Chicago stories and experiences. And it was the Chicago stories that made him famous, because Dinah Washington, the blues singer, was his classmate. And so how the story goes, he was in the kitchen and he was Chicago Red and his homie was Detroit Red. And when Detroit Red got locked up, he was like, hey, man, I'm hanging with the wrong crowd. I want to get out of here. So he called a teacher from DuSable that knew Dinah Washington. And she was like, well, why don't you come out and open up for me? And, you know, sent him to L.A. and off to the races he went. Person. You know what I'm saying? And just so like, you know, I want to tell those stories on the small screen, you know, and kind of invigorate, you know, the Chicago scene. Then we also want to tell us stories about the Pullman Porters. There have been some movies about them.
What's that? So
the Pullman Porters are the first middle-class job for black folks. When we traveled the country on trains before airplanes, they were like the concierge on the trains. They're the reason why we tip, right? The first ever tip in this country was because that's how their owner preferred you pay him. Instead of him paying them, he got your customers to tip them based off of their service. But they were so ingenious that they would figure out, you know, case in point, right? You're a drunk white dude on the train, your wallet fall out. Well, you know, once you turn the wallet back in, he's gonna say, "Oh, this black guy stole all my money."
Right.
And so what they would do is they would get all the porters together and they would put $2 in your wallet. So even if it was nothing in it, they would give you back your wallet with $2 in it. And then if you were any kind of halfway decent human being, you would at least tip them $1. And now the rest of the train sees you tipping them $1, so the rest, you can't be outdone. So now they getting all of, you know, they do that. If they heard businessmen talking about a stock, right? There was a Chicago guy by the name of Julius Rosenwald who put Goldman and Sachs on. Their first account was Sears going public, Goldman and Sachs. And so the Pullman Porters heard that conversation on the train. So he went and got his whole life savings and put it in Sears and became rich. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, let's go. This is great.
Yeah, so I want to tell those stories, right? They used to say they had the worst job on the train, but the best job on the block, because they would use that ingenuity. If Brother Maestro got accepted into Morehouse, but your mother didn't have enough money to put you on the train, but she knew a Pullman Porter, we could put you on as a stowaway, you know what I'm saying, for half the price. And he'd have to hide you when you got down south, you know, but then sometimes by the time you got down south, he done made enough tips to where he could buy your ticket the rest of the way. or maybe the mama gave enough for half the train fare.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That way, when you got in the South, you had a ticket because it was a little more serious down there, right?
Yeah.
We don't know these stories, man. You know.
But man, I'm glad you're right. So how many scripts have you like started?
3.
Writing? 3.
Yeah.
Man,
yeah.
I would love to see those come to life, bro.
Yeah.
These are great stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
Damn, man.
I want them to come to life too, man. You know, so that way I can retire the wife.
Exactly. I feel you. So what are your next projects? Like, what's the next things that you want to do? Like, obviously these scripts.
Yeah, these scripts. I've been hesitant about getting the podcast off, but just to maybe I pick a couple Chicago stories and tell them in long form.
I think that'd be dope.
That kind of thing would be next. But really, just continuing what's going on. Just I do the neighborhood tours. You can people that come to Chicago book the tours on the site, and then we take groups out during the week. So Facebook, and Google, and Microsoft, and all these people. We take them to these neighborhoods and try to show them the assets of the neighborhoods. And it's all the way down from who this street was named after to what was there to what's there now. And so, man, if I don't do nothing else, I couldn't be more happier, man. Really couldn't.
Man, well, bro, thank you so much.
No, it's my pleasure, man.
This was incredible.
Season
I learned so much.
4 of my wife's favorite season. She man,
bro.
I'm a wire head. I remember when HBO was running the promos for this new show called The Wire, and I rushed. I caught it then, right, the first time it ever aired, and it had me hooked. And so I'm one of the people that appreciate season 2. That's how much of a
you're a real fan.
I'm a
You
head,
get it.
right? I'm a head for real. And
it.
so she had just completed student teaching. She might have been student teaching when season 4 hit. And so she had this understand. She was working at a challenging school. And so, y'all's story, man, like it hooked her. And that was like part of our courting. Like we'd watch The Wire, man. So, extremely honored. And like I said, just people from Chicago people who are not from Chicago wouldn't understand how I feel to be waiting in Taurus Flavors, waiting to get your sandwich. And who is this kid? And by the time you're out, his whole life, they had that man whole life on the wall. If he wanted a spelling bee, it was up there on that wall, man.
It was up there, man.
So that's super dope. I'm amazingly honored. I talk about you and Jason Weaver all the time as far as this is great representation of Chicago.
Me and Jason have met like once in passing, but I know like we have a bunch of mutual friends.
Yes, sir.
So like we definitely got to lock in at some point. But you know my boy Chris Lofton?
Yeah.
So him and Jason are real cool, and that's like my brother will always, he on Power Now. Shout out to Chris.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, like.
Y'all too, man. Really, like I said, we all, if you're a super thug, we know who you are. If you Derrick Rose, you dunked on somebody, you know who you are. But what about the folks that had good parents who saw something in their kids and invested in them kids, and them kids paid off on that investment? Not even monetarily, just did living the dream and living the talent that their parents saw in them.
The sacrifices they made.
Yeah, y'all two are the perennial examples that I talk about all the time. That's it's an honor for me to be sitting there with you.
Thank you so much, bro. And what's even crazier, I did the Lion King here.
Say word.
Yeah,
see,
I was young Simba when I was at the Cadillac Palace.
Say word. See,
yeah,
him.
Yeah,
he just
he did the Lion King.
He just got his platinum plaque for the second song on there, right? Ooh, yeah,
man. But like you said, you love to see it, man.
Yes, sir.
You love to see it, and once again, it means a lot. And I know even being able to do what I did on The Wire and all that, like for sure, has a lot to do with this city.
Say word.
And an understanding of growing up on the South Side, knowing what things can really be like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I had fantastic parents, but all the neighborhoods my dad worked in, when he would take me around, and you see some stuff, and you like, oh, okay, and you learn early.
You better learn early.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, Baltimore is it's a different animal, but it's like. No, it's the same animal, just a slightly different color.
Yeah,
that's what it is. But
yeah.
But it's just, it's a different environment. It doesn't feel like here, but at the same time, you see the same issues.
Yeah.
It's the same, just in a different tone.
Yeah.
But yeah, but listen, bro, thank you so much. I had a blast, and yeah.
Thank you, brother.
We got to do a part 2.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
I got to come on a tour.
Oh yeah, do it. You got to.
Hell yeah, bro. But we out. Peace.